Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Alive Outside, an anthology published in 2024. The editors are Mark Bell and Cullen Beckhorn. And this is a very lavish book. It's kind of almost like half art book, half comic anthology. But a lot of interesting stuff in here, a lot of artists I've never heard of, a lot of kind of artsy-fartsy stuff, which is very subjective. Some of you might like some of this art, some of you might hate it. Not a lot of narrative stuff. I mean, there is some, but it's all very kind of like surreal. Some of it's just paintings, beautiful paintings that have no narrative at all. So starting off with the lavishness of this book. So it comes with this flap here, and I'll take it out. First, let me take this out. I'll show you this in a second. And this is by artist Lily Carre. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So when you open it up, let me okay. So I'll do this half at a time. And it seems to almost have a sequentiality to it, but I don't really know what's going on. It's just kind of art. And then this, I don't know, these like weird blue hands are like wounding this woman's face. Kind of interesting art. Not that striking to me, but definitely interesting. I left the price tag on, but maybe I'll take that off. Or maybe I'll leave it to remind me. So I think this is a decent price considering they only made 900 copies of this book. And I read on the internet, even like a while ago, they were almost sold out. But the reason why I think I got it for a decent price, because I know you're thinking $50, that's a lot of money, but this is a fancy book. I mean, beautiful printing, full color through most of it. But it is missing. Apparently, in this flap, they were supposed to be a comic book by this guy named Dongery. From everything I've read, it looks like I didn't get this, and it's supposed to be in here. So it did mention also on the internet that, some remaining copies they had for sale were like missing certain things. So I guess it's a year later. I'm kind of happy just to find this thing, because even though it's a mixed bag like most anthologies, it's kind of a beautiful little objet d'art. So here's the thing that was inside that flap. Now I'm gonna have to show you this in pieces. This is kind of a poster, but it's also a comic. This is by Trenton Doyle Hancock, who I'm unfamiliar with, but a very interesting artist. So basically we have this like kind of simply drawn, weird, surreal comic strip. I guess there's kind of a narrative, but it's like just very odd. This guy goes to this person's house. Well, I don't know what it is, a robot? It looks like a KKK robot. And he wants him to screw in his light bulb for him. And he agrees to do it. And then it cuts away to this other character. And he turns into this weird superhero, Torpedo Boy. And then it starts repeating itself. And as you can see, some of the panels are blocked out. Later on, we might see what's behind this art here when it's repeated. So it keeps repeating throughout this page. And basically, you get to see all the panels eventually. But then, it's covered by this amazing art, which is kind of multimedia. He has like lids of medicine bottles photographed on top of the art. And I guess this is called Step and Screw. That's the name of this piece. But look at this crazy intricate art here. Very just surreal. Very almost like dreamlike, like something you'd see in a dream that you couldn't describe. But it's kind of beautifully drawn, so differently drawn than this comic strip. And then let me do this real quick first so you can see at least. I don't want to zoom back out, so if you're looking at this, if you want to pause it, you can look at all the art. Now we'll go to the next half, and we get to see this crazy character with more of these photographed. I think these are lids from bottles, but who knows? This weird football player. Football is like full of eggs, eyes, I don't know. I kind of love art like this where you're not even quite sure what you're looking at. Let me also do the swipe for this one, for this half, so you can see everything. Pretty crazy stuff. Now this has nothing on the back, it's just white, so let me see how to fold this back up. Okay, guys, I did forget to show you something. On the flap by Lily Carré, there is this art, which, design work. It's basically just a design. I don't know who did it. I couldn't figure it out from the contents. The contents is a little vague. It's almost like it's a challenge. I basically spent the last 45 minutes going through the book, using articles about this to double check the artists, and made a list. And I still am missing an artist. There's some paintings in here where I don't know who they're by. I couldn't see it, didn't see it in the contents. I don't know. But for the most part, I think I got it nailed down. So now we have the covers here. These are by a woman named Eden Vaudry, Veaudry. And kind of all these little Mickey Mouse knockoffs. Looks like it's a colored pencil or maybe crayon even. So she does the complete wraparound cover here. And then on top of that, they even give her the first few pages. So it's more of this kind of just bizarre art. I find this art very just not that great. I really don't care. It's interesting. I mean, this is kind of interesting, this weird semi-abstract imagery. Maybe because it's just like there's no hard lines in it, and it's just kind of bland looking to me. But this is one of those things where it's so subjective. Someone might love this artist. Next, we have this. We have Lucas Weidinger. This one's kind of interesting. It just reminds me of a lot of like cartoonists from the 80s. Not cartoonists in comic books, but like guys who would draw for National Lampoon or something. And this one's kind of interesting because we see this guy in a bus looking out at this woman lounging in her little neighborhood, her yard pool. And then when we flip the page, we see the exact 180 degree. Now we're looking at the bus, and here's the woman in the foreground. I don't know why I find stuff like this kind of interesting. Kind of like the art too. Pretty nice style. But that's all it is. We have the contents page. This was all lettered by Mark Bell. As you can see, there's no numbers. Sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, this guy's here, and then he's following an artist on the next page. And so it's that's why I had to write all this stuff down. We have a title page here by Jonathan Peterson. Yeah, I could take it or leave it. Kind of boring. And then we have kind of a little mini portfolio by this artist named Clayton Schiff. As you can see, they're pretty lush paintings of these weird animal-human hybrids. Kind of good. This reminds me of that horrible movie Tusk. But I like it. I love the expression on his face. So now we have a special This is one of the many inserts, even though this is not really an insert, it's just a section of the book. This is called Alive and Outside with an exclamation point. This is the Underground Supplemental. It says issue number 1, fall 2024. So what they were trying to do here is trying to duplicate. Actually, I'll let them, let's wait a second, and their own words will describe it better than I could. This cover is by Jordan Ray Herron, just one of the many artists I never heard of. Really like her stuff. Kind of reminds me of like a Phoebe Glockner or something. They even have like an inside front cover with an indicia. This drawing right here is by Aaron Rosner. So it says, Alive and Outside was pieced together with the aesthetic of a typical late 80s, early 90s magazine-sized North American independent comics anthology in mind. So it's almost like harkening back to that great heyday of that period. So many great anthologies. Weirdo was still being published. I think Raw was still being published. But also you had Buzzard. You had all these ones that lasted 2 or 3 issues. All those great ones from Fantagraphics, like Snake Eyes. Just so many great anthologies. So they're trying to like recreate that flavor. And so we start off with a page by Julie Doucet. To be honest, I wouldn't have even known this was Julie Doucet. A few things like her mouth here. But this is a very just odd, strange little strip where her figure's repeating and melding into the next picture of herself. Doesn't really make much sense, whatever. It's almost like something from a sketchbook, even though it's fully realized. I haven't seen her in forever, so that was kind of nice. Next, we have this thing. This is Stephen M. Johnson, American Genius in 1974. So apparently he was a commercial artist. I never heard of this guy. I don't know if he was just a commercial artist and then was discovered years later as a pretty damn good artist. And I do like his stuff a lot. This stuff is really fun. This is like some crazy amusement park he planned, which would obviously never be built. And I guess he worked as a parks planner in Sacramento, California. So all these drawings are accompanied by little bits of text that are Stephen M. Johnson's own words, him talking about his life, talking about his the things he liked to draw. God, look at these crazy contraptions. These are so much fun. This kind of reminds me of once again, from the National Lampoon, Bruce McCall. He'd do these elaborate cartoony paintings, but they were always like, almost like, wow, are you looking into another world? Like drawing weird architecture and really getting down to the nuts and bolts of some fantastic made up devices and buildings. I really like this stuff. Some weird amusement park that's all based on death. Oh yeah, this is one thing he did. He just designed like 100 bridges, or 173 bridges in one weekend, just for fun. He was like, I'm gonna just make up some crazy bridges. This is really odd. So next we have some Steven strips by Doug Allen, and it appears that these are just reprints of early 80s Steven strips. This is, it says 82 here. Now, Steven, long-running syndicated comic in alternative weeklies. They're all kind of fun. Steven's just a drunk man-child. And these are all pretty fun. He hangs out with all these seedy street people. But they're definitely kind of surreal. The humor is very odd. Definitely like these. There's also this character, Dumpy, who works at a dump. And he just fanatically collects all this nasty shit. He's thrilled when he finds a wet mattress or a dried earthworm for his collection. Buckets of slop. And when Stephen asks him, what do you do with all this stuff? He's like, do? He doesn't even care. He just mindlessly collects it. And he comes back and we see him organizing his dump into crazy little piles. We also see Bikini Bear, a long-running character of Doug Allen's. So these are just gag strips. But they're definitely not your average gag strips. Next we have this artist named Mark Connery. And this is kind of a gag strip, very odd. As you can see, the art's pretty crude. It looks like some 12-year-old kid drew it. It's kind of fun, the writing, but it's not, didn't really thrill me. Very surreal, but definitely trying to be funny too. Something about trying to find this missing octopus is very weird. Now here we have Jordan Ray Herron again. She did the cover of this insert. This is called Get a Grip. This is where you can really see like the Phoebe Glockner. And this comic is kind of very vaguely, like this could be in like, I don't know, Tits and Clits or Women's Comics or Twisted Sisters in the 80s. It's kind of like this bizarre stream of consciousness journey through the modern, patriarchal capitalist world. All these little things, people talking about AI, guys like saying all the sexist shit to her. And we see these like fat cat milk billionaires. And then she goes into this box. It's a coffin. Really like this art. Crazy layout here. We follow it like this. When she comes out of the coffin, she's in this other seemingly equally crappy world. It's like a guy fondles her, some asshole. So it seems like it's just as bad as where she came from. But we see it's definitely more experimental. It's kind of interesting. It goes like this, all the weird panel shapes. And then you follow this little layer. And then we see this. We see some, I don't know what this guy is, but he's watching all of it on monitors. Almost like a state agent from 1984, keeping an eye on all the citizens. Then we see her fall into this intestine, it looks like. But the intestine that goes to a brain. And then we see this weird little bug guy saying, "What'd you do without me?" I don't really get it, but I really like this image. For some reason, the bug is colored. I don't know why, but it really stands out. And then we have 80s, 90s anthology stalwart. We have J. Bradley Johnson. This guy was in so many anthologies back then. And maybe I should, I gotta say, a pet peeve of mine is these like fancy pants anthologies. It's like, oh, you have some of the greatest artists in the world doing all this amazing stuff. But printed square bound. You're always gonna miss some of the art in the crack here, in the seam. I just think if I was gonna make a really great anthology, I would just not make it square bound, ever. It just doesn't, it's almost like showing movies with commercials. It's flawed. It's not a good thing. So this is called Snoot Grollo Funnies, and this is, like I said, J. Bradley Johnson. Kind of just a weird gag about this lazy warehouse worker. And then he sees some ectoplasm and basically loses his job. This next artist is another one of those artists where it's like, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at, and I kind of like it. It's someone named Becky Ayumi, and she mixes up photography and all kinds of drawing. I don't know what the hell she's using here. Maybe crayons and water pencils. Watercolors and pencils. Maybe not watercolors. I don't know. I'm not an artist. But the way she seamlessly puts these photographs in some of the drawings, sometimes you can't tell what's a photo, what's a drawing anymore. And this doesn't really have a narrative. There is this little devil character who seems to... Then she pulls back and just draws this almost like a map from a fantasy novel. You know, showing you all the regions of this weird land, all these monsters, but we still see the devil, so there's some kind of continuity. And now we're back to these crazy kind of multimedia things going on, because there's always photos in them. Not much, but she blends them more a little later on. It's almost like there's panels, but I don't really think there's a story here. Maybe I'm just too dumb to get it. So this page of just various objects. Some are photos and some aren't, and some are mixed. And it just becomes this weird thing of like, I can't tell what's a photo anymore and what's art. I mean, for the most, you can for a lot of them, but then some of them it's like, wait, is that a photo of a chain or did she draw it? Obviously, this little devil is always a photo. Oh, look at this. That's really a blend of photo and art. Really love this page too, of this city street full of cars at night. It looks like maybe it's Tokyo with all the neon, crazy neon colors. Some nice stuff. And here's the last one. Here we have a pinup by Julian Secaldi. Could be Kicaldi. I think it's Secaldi, I'd guess. Very weird, like manga style. We're going to see them later on in an insert. This is Bridget Trout. This stuff is just mind-melting. This stuff is just like so lethargic and crazy. It makes even the most psychedelic underground cartoonist, hippie cartoonist, just like look like, you know, I don't know, Ogden Whitley. This stuff is so crazy. 12 self-care habits of successful women. Just so many things are happening in every picture. We're just like, I don't even understand. Like, this looks so much like something you draw in acid. Crazy stuff. Really like the colors too, how colorful it is. It looks like it's just done with markers. And it's even on lined notebook paper. Maybe this was just from her sketchbooks, but pop diva icons. So strange. Oh my god, this stuff is nuts. I also love art like this, where you're just like, this person's got to be kind of crazy. There's no way. 100 boss lady quotes you need in your life to succeed. Sounds like she got all the, these are all magazine article titles or something. Ay, ay, ay. Craziness. And some more of that. Now we cut away to Keith Jones. This stuff is very designy, like graphic designy. And not really that exciting to me. These all look like they could be ads in some like fancy magazine. But it's kind of good though. I kind of like looking at this art. I kind of like the style. But when he doesn't have figures in it, it's just like, okay, what am I looking at there? He does have a nice sense of graphic design, so it's pleasing to the eye, I guess, but this to me is the highlight of the book. This is Portland resident Theo Ellsworth, at least last I heard. I think he still lives in Portland. This is called Hyper Curious. This is such a wonderful, surreal, dreamlike, well, or slash nightmarish, just journey he takes you on. We see this guy in this weird helmet, and he's fascinated by this thing called the goblin helmet. And so We see him go to this place. He rings the buzzer. This guy opens the door. He's kind of just scared. He's just like, what's going on? He's just like, I just really love goblin helmets. He's like, are you crazy showing up here? How did you even know about my goblin helmet? Also, I should point out, just like, I just love Theo Ellsworth's art. He's been around for like, God, it might be 20 years now at this point. But his stuff is just such a unique style. Lots of lines. It's very textural. But also it tells a good narrative, you know? Even if it's completely crazy and weird. So he keeps saying, I'm hyper curious. Can I please see the goblin helmet? So the guy shows it to him. I love this how they go into this room and he just says, oh my God, is that what I think it is? This crazy thing in the corner, whatever the hell that is. But he shows him the goblin helmet. He says, I don't even put it on. It's a collecting thing. So he says, but you can hang out in my rain room. It's kind of this weird closet or something. And so he tries it on. And this is one thing that's got really visually striking. He says, goblin helmet, activate. And then look at this. Oh man, I love this. This is his brain just like melting into geometry and colors and this weirdness. And then he finds himself at this weird amusement park. It's almost like he's been transported to this other realm. To get in, you have to check your goblin helmet. So even though he just got the goblin helmet, he checks it in. He gets a reclaim slip. Just want to look at this a little bit more. It's so cool. And so he goes on these weird rides. And he just have a sense of like a nightmare. Like there's all this paranoid stuff where people just come out of nowhere and are like, what you're doing is illegal. Like there's a sense of dread. When he's done with the ride, it says, congratulations, your brain has not been melted. Apparently he could have died on that trip. So he meets this, he realizes he's hungry. He meets this weird looking character. See, when you look closely, it's also a mask. You see this guy's face peering out. He offers him, well, actually he says, I don't think you should eat the haunted crabgrass. That might not be for you, but I will give you a glow melon. And he cooks it up for him, this big blue orb. And for some reason he puts a rubber ducky next to it as if it's an hors d'oeuvre, and it commands him to eat. He eats it, it's very weird. He's like, oh, this is disgusting. I can't barf. And then this makes him have another kind of trip. Look at this, I love this little thing here. It's almost like his consciousness is going into this thing and ping, ping, ping over here into this, whatever it is, an auto construct with an eyeball head, a member of the residence, I don't know. Once again, the whole time, Ellsworth's backgrounds are just so beautiful, so much great cross-hatching and designs. And so then he meets this weird creature who gives him like a little blue marble type thing. He says, hold on to it at all times. Do not open your hand until you're in a safe place, basically. So now he gets back to that guy who gave him the glow melon. And he says, you shouldn't be here. You're lucky to be alive. He says, wait, I have a slip for my goblin helmet. I got to retrieve that. And he says, I'll look into this while you take a psychic detox ride. So he goes on this basically another ride where he's in a bed, riding backwards. And I guess this detoxes him. He gets all wobbly here as he's getting detoxed, as he goes through this machine. So he gets his goblin helmet back. The whole time he's holding his fist closed. He knows that he can't let those guys know he has this blue marble thing. Here's some more just great trippiness going on here. And then when he comes back to quote-unquote the real world, the guy who gave him the goblin helmet in the first place, he's all attacking him with a wrench. And the whole time the main character is just saying, oh, I'm so grateful. I think you're the coolest for letting me borrow this. And the guy's just like, where did it take you? Who are you? And he's like chasing him out of his place, basically. So remember that thing earlier in the corner of the room? I guess it's a portal. It's a great cloud puppy portal. He figures he'll escape by sliding down its throat. And I guess he makes it back to wherever he's from. And he finally opens his hand. And the little blue marble turns into this amazing, I don't know, almost like alien flora or something. And that's the end. Very, very tripadelic, very crazy comic. Really enjoyable, though. This is my favorite in the whole thing. Next, we have some drawings by, let's see, by Shobo. Kind of like this stuff. It's kind of gross and funny at the same time. I'll try to show you. This is bifurcated by an insert here. So now let's look at this insert. This insert is by Joe Grillo. Never heard of this guy. Very interesting stuff going on here. This is another thing that kind of reminds me of underground comics, or maybe 80s, like, you know, new wave comics, as they tried to call them for a little while. There's no narrative in here, really. The aliens have landed and they are us. Just crazy stuff. This guy with half a dome on his head. It almost looks like Epcot Center's on his head. He has a Neil Young t-shirt playing guitar. This looks like Forbish Man here. Just crazy stuff. These faces made up of all this just various stuff. He's a Batman, shows up. Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey Mouse. From the interviews I read with the editors, this guy I think is some fine artist or something, because they made it seem like this was quite a coup getting this guy. And these might be from olden times, like the 80s or 90s or something. But I couldn't quite get the story. I should have looked up Joe Grillo on Wikipedia or something, but I do like looking at this stuff. It's really crazy. This is more art that's just like, you can't be a sane person and draw this kind of stuff. So it is in panel form, but yeah, good luck trying to find a story in here. You'd either have to be a genius or schizophrenic to find some story in here. God. I love this kind of stuff. As Dr. Doom makes an appearance. Because I just can't even fathom how someone would think to draw this. This weird little design things of just all these little rectangles. But most of it has like concrete imagery. But that all kind of warps and collides with other concrete images. Really interesting stuff. And here's one more from Shobo. I want a comic with these characters. They look funny. Next, this comic is really weird to me because even though earlier we had that tribute to late 80s, 90s comics, I find so many things in here that look so early 70s to me. You know, that era when the hippies had kind of won. All the corporations, all the big businesses were like, hey, the hippies are the biggest market. Let's try to appeal to them. And you'd see kind of hippie-like art appear in like comic books and greeting cards, definitely in magazines. And this comic especially totally looks like it's some early 70s cartoonist I never heard of. This is a guy named Apo Rippy. AAPORIPI. And it just looks like this total old-timey, 70s strip. And it looks like it's just going to be a typical, oh, okay, this is like a, gag strip. But it's just very weird. This guy just starts yelling at this guy at a cafe, the guy in the hat. Starting to rant about philosophy, Schopenhauer, using salt and pepper shakers as an analogy. And he gets so worked up, he has a heart attack. He dies. See, look at this. This looks so late 60s, early 70s to me. So the ambulance comes, takes the dead guy away. Our protagonist here is sitting thinking. And then the salt shaker says, hey, see that door over there? Go open it. There's a spirit who wants to talk to you. And at first he doesn't go. He's just like, I don't believe in ghosts. But then the ghost comes out on its own, and it's that guy who just died. And he's a waiter now. And he serves him some, it looks like some wine here. The sloppiness of the lettering, the coloring, everything of this comic screams to me of like, oh, this is a comic from 1973. And that's that. So now this is the annoying part, guys. I have no idea who these paintings are by. This is going to be more of his later. They're really striking, kind of interesting, but I could not figure it out on using the contents page, So, who knows? Maybe it's that guy Dongery who did the mini comic that I don't have. I don't know. So next we have the first of two stories by Joey Haley. This is called The Ugly Young Man. These are colored by Mark Bell, by the way. They look like they're going to be like, oh, okay, finally we're going to get some narrative, but not really. It looks like a little picture story, but it's just very, surreal and poetic almost, and just weird. Kind of interesting drawing, though. I kind of like this art style. Very sketchy, as you can see. Very loose. But it looks like there's a underpinning of someone who can really draw, So now we have... Sorry, I'm looking at my list here. Now, I believe, actually, this is... I think this is the beginning of Andy Cahill's contribution to the book. But before we continue with that, we're going to look at this insert here. User Manual 2.5. Has some kind of gobbledygook here as if it was some user manual. But this is by Carrie Chomlaki. Once again, this is art that I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. It seems to be like tinted photos, maybe even negatives, but then colored, all like collaged together. It has this almost like melting chrome effect. Not that that's a thing. It just popped in my head. I don't know. It's metallic, but also melty. Or maybe it's like so hot that it's getting melty. Just really weird. Just abstract imagery. Well, I mean, not all of it. There's a face, obviously. But yeah, I just don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't know how this was made. I have no clue. Maybe computer. It's computer art. Extracorporeal blunt force. Really bizarre. Department of the Interior. And some of this, I think, is maybe collage, like clipping art and collaging it, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I've never seen this artist before. It's kind of fascinating, though. Just the effects going on here. It ends with mutually assured destruction practically guarantees that both parties will be obliterated. Okay, now we're definitely, this is the Andy Cahill. Let me double check on that. Yes. These are just more very interesting, kind of almost like from his sketchbooks. This really, this anthology reminds me of Kramer's Ergot so much, where a lot of it is just like, yeah, at least most of the issues of Kramer's Ergot into the later ones, where narrative was an afterthought. It was all about amazing art and graphics. So this is just basically pinups. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's sketchbook stuff, but really interesting. I'm not familiar with this guy either. I would love to read comics by him. That's kind of beautiful. It reminds me of like a spirograph drawing from the 70s, but much better. And now we have that guy again from the first few pages, Lucas Weidinger. And this is just these like 2-page spreads showing this crazy cityscape. This also kind of reminds me of like 70s stuff. Like this looks like he could have been in National Lampoon. Well, not that. That's too weird and underground and odd. But we just see these various streetscapes. And he really seems to like really have thought this out. Like just everyone, what they're doing on the street. Almost like a Richard Scarry drawing, the children's cartoonist. I do like his style though. I love this guy here. That looks like the nicest parka ever. It's all these street scenes, but everyone in them is kind of interesting or doing something interesting, or at least dressed interestingly. I like this one with all the negative space of the street here. And finally we got some like crazy drama. Someone running to save this dog because this guy's looking at his phone. This guy in a van. And this, I think it's a woman. I can't tell because of this goddamn, the spine. This could be one of those great grade school exercises where the teacher would show you a weird painting and be like, write a story about this. And then things get kind of weird. It looks like the whole page is erupting, turning into this speed lines, force lines. The page is breaking up. And then we just cut back to another little street scene. So now we have a collaboration by Mark Bell and Christian Schumann. I couldn't find out like what the breakdown was, like what Mark Bell did, what Christian Schumann did. But to be honest, this just looks like Mark Bell to me. You know, Mark Bell loves to do this kind of stuff. It's kind of almost world building, I guess you could call it. We're just making all these cool edifices and buildings and structures. Totally out of his imagination, probably totally impractical. None of these would stand. They're not architecturally sound or anything by any means, but they're just so fun to just look at these. And then he throws in little, I don't know, goofy little sayings here and there. It seems like that's Mark Bell's work in the past 10 years since, you know, all the stuff I've seen by him. I kind of miss the fact that he doesn't do comics because he was a really funny cartoonist, like Shrimpy and Paul and all those comics. It seems like this is all he does now. Is just kind of like, I think he's in galleries. I've never heard of Christian Schumann, so I guess maybe I do see, like, that looks like not Mark Bell, that face there. So I guess they're just two artists who like to collaborate because they both have very surreal sensibilities. Yeah, this stuff is just... Each of these 2-page spreads, I would just, probably took me 10 minutes to look at. Just go inch by inch. It's always rewarding too. It's almost like He just is so visually inventive. Well, I'm sorry, both of these guys. To me, this just looks like Mark Bell. They're both so visually inventive. They're just the shit that spews out of their brain, like everything. This looks like the goon from Popeye mixed with olive oil, but as a lumberjack. I am here for the mysterious tumping event. They keep mentioning this tumping thing, but there's not a real narrative here at all. Once again, unless you're some kind of genius or insane, you'd probably find one. Bale's Law World Tour. Just random little things, sayings. Yeah, there's some... I love this kind of stuff. In a weird way, this reminds me of Richard Scarry. Like, I don't really care what's going on. I just want to look at every inch and find some new thing to look at. I wonder if that's supposed to be Julie Doucet. Yeah, now I definitely can see that could probably Christian Schulman. I've never seen Mark Bell draw like that. But it kind of seamlessly fits in with Mark Bell's crazy dada weirdness. This is some great stuff. And now this is the artist who did that poster that's in the front cover. This is more stuff by, sorry, I'm looking at the list, Trenton Doyle Hancock. So this gets even more insane than the poster. This is just like, I mean, you can see for yourself, guys. Look at this craziness. Once again, this is a combination of the artists. It's like, I think they're insane. And I also think some of the stuff, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. He's using a lot of photography. I think he just took the original art and put objects on it. Almost like Dave McKean and Bill Sienkiewicz do, you know? But just look at the detail of this stuff. This is another one where every 2-page spread, I'd be looking at for like 10 minutes. Carefully looking at every square inch and just finding so many new things. There are some weird recurring images. Remember this little tiny guy in a jail, like a hive that's a jail. He'll pop up again. God, how long did this take this guy to draw? I can't even imagine. So now we have, see, there's that drawing blown up. So some of the things that were all tiny in those things, these are basically just insets showing us close-ups of them. Almost like, you know, when you look at an art book, we see more of those little discs that he likes to put in, you know, photo. He probably just puts it on top of the art. And now we get another one. This one perhaps even more intricate. Oh my God. This is insanity. Just look at this building. Every single window has a little awning and a strange little window frame. This is just total horror vacue in action. Some of the buildings are very kind of almost normal. And then look at this structure. This really bizarre stuff. And right next to it is this almost futuristic one, kind of high rise. I would love to see this in a museum show. I think that this guy mostly does. I don't even think he does comics. That's what I inferred from the interviews I read and the stuff I read on the internet. And here's more now blown up in set. Okay, next we have Matt Locke. I don't think he's the elderly sheriff from the TV show. It's split in two, Matt Locke. And he just does these pinups here. Kind of reminds me of like a precocious stoner teenager would draw these in his notebook instead of listening to the teacher in class. Just really weird, crazy stuff. I just want to incorporate some collage stuff. Some robot dog. This definitely looks like a back cover of a notebook from some teenager. Next we have Roman Muradov. This is called King of the Timber Drum. It says by Georgia Sickle, but there's no Georgia Sickle listed. I don't know what that means. So we see this guy, Peter. He's walking into all these bars, and for some reason, every bar he walks into is playing King of the Timber Drum by Manu Chao. I don't know if that's a real song. I should have looked it up. But it's this weird thing where he's like, after one drink, he goes to the next bar. They're playing that song again. So even though this looks like, a kind of narrative normal strip, it's pretty just like what? There's not really much story. Now it changes. That basically was a one-page gag. And now we see this woman who's just ranting about New Yorker cartoons and how stupid they are. Also, she has an experience, this kind of run-in with King of the Timber Drum. And for some reason, this just sets her off. She quits her job. She's just pissed off. She's at work. She's just like, I resign. Everyone's all like, what are you doing? What? And she's just like, fuck all you people. I'm out of here. And this little kid gives her a coupon for a free drink or a voucher at a bar. So she goes to this bar. I kind of like this. I don't know who this reminds me of, but it's very like, I don't know. Just a cool cartooning style. And when she gets there, there's three people she recognizes, her three friends. They all start getting really drunk. The bartender's like, drinks around the house. I don't know why. Maybe he's having a bad day and just wants to get drunk with these people. So they're all taking shots and kvetching. They're talking about this weird writer they know who's an asshole who makes these mouth sausages by collecting all of his spit in a spittoon and then boiling sausages in them until they're all boiled down and all the liquids absorbed, the saliva, and then he gives them to people to eat. Mouth sausages. Very weird. It's kind of interesting. It's got this strict grid, but it constantly breaks through the grid. Like here. And just bouncing in between black and white and three colors. I think it's really like just nice graphic design, this comic. But the narrative is pretty weird and just, I don't know, it's not that funny or interesting. It's just like, okay, weird things are happening. It's not like I was bored reading it, but okay, guys, this really sums up the 70s aesthetic. I cannot believe this isn't some, well, it has like an aspect to it that's too weird for anything from the early 70s. Like, it basically, a graphic designer from the early 70s who was told to make a comic and then given 10 hits of acid. This is Leomi Sadler. And this art is just so, once again, it's just so bizarre. And the story is so odd. We see this little angel. She's basically a lazy angel. They're always trying to, central command in heaven is always like, where are you? What are you doing? She's like, I don't want to do anything. She sees this other angel. Some of these angels actually look like demons to me, but they got a little halo, and they're acting like demons. This angel is just like, I finally realized we have all total rights over these humans and to keep them in their place. And from now on, I'm going to be, it's going to be some tough love going on. So he's just going around slaughtering humans, like slaughtering people who don't believe in evolution, atheists. Look at how it's just like this sloppy aesthetic where there's just all this ink spills and just left in. The painting, went instead of correcting, it's just like, I fucked up there, just leave it. But it kind of adds to the whole, I don't know, just insanity of it all. So the angel continues to just like almost show off, like, look what I can do with these humans. He crushes these two humans in between his hands. Just a really weird strip. But the way he draws Little Angel, it's so, like, it almost looks like a Kathy Geiswhite. Well, better than her, but it has this, like, cutesy 70s greeting card character feel. She meets all these various weird angels who all seem to look like demons, kind of. This one demon gives her, angel gives her advice. Mentions something about how you have to update yourself soon. Guys, look at this. This looks like art from like The Point, that Nilsson, comic insert to the Point album soundtrack. She meets some human beings and they assault her. They want to milk her for her angel's milk. I guess angel's milk is a very valuable commodity. She, at the last minute, remembers she has wings and flies away. I love this shot here of her, bird's eye view. She's flying away. The perspective on that is so loopy and crazy, but it definitely works. That just seems like a really hard shot to map out. So now she sees this, like, ambulance. Here's another angel. She says, get in the van, we're going to rescue you. They give her angel's milk, which makes her feel really strong. And, now we see another mean angel just kind of brutalizing humans. And then he sees the little angel. And basically he's like, who's that sinner? And she's like, wait, no, I'm an angel. But this mean angel slaps her around. Then he stops and he realizes, oh, wait, you are an angel. And she says, wait, don't kill me. I accepted the update. And the angel says, but did you swallow? That's the end of the comic. But I did want to point out these two panels. Something really interesting going on here. With him slapping her face. Yeah, this is just a really zany comic. This is... And then we have 2 nice pages by Rege Jr. It's so weird. Like, for decades, I never liked Rege Jr.'s work. And then recently, he's changed. His style is different, and I like it now. The faces are still kind of the same, but he does all... This looks like some beautiful mangaka. Some great... I mean, if you didn't see that face, it's just beautiful colors. Really nice. And here's another one. Really great design here. Let me see if I can get this without too much shine on it. That's some nice stuff. So now we have another insert, Simon's Thumb. Now this is by the artist we saw earlier, Julian Cicaldi. And this is the total manga, faux manga. And it's crazy. It's almost like Herbie comics where just drawing it, well, I mean, it's not a straight manga style. There's some really weird aspects to it. But looking like a manga pretty much. But it's telling the most bizarre story. It really works, the combination. It makes it weirder. So we see this dude, he's the protagonist here. And, his name's Francis. Francis is this kind of totally wimpy guy. And he's coming to meet, have like lunch with an ex of his. And we saw her earlier, this strange horse-like chin. Very weird. And we realize, Francis brings up how like, oh, well, my ex is, it's kind of weird to find out my ex is dating Simon now. And she's like, what are you talking about? And now we see some like little flashbacks. Simon apparently is this gorgeous guy who everyone in town, men and women, all want to be with. And you can tell that Francis obviously has a huge crush on him. And basically he's just like, well, until we're in the same place emotionally, I guess I'll just have to be his friend. But obviously he's totally in love with him. So his friend here says, we're not a couple. But obviously they're probably fucked and stuff. She says, hey, that reminds me, he's throwing a party tonight. We're going to go. Oh, Caroline is the name of his horse-faced friend. And Francis is so happy that he was wrong about Simon and Caroline being an item. Now all of a sudden he's filled with love for his friend. And he starts reveling, having revelous thoughts about Simon. And then finally we see Simon. And to Francis's shock, he introduces him to his new partner, who's a thumb. And such a weirdly cute yet repulsive character. And she's super sweet, this thumb lady. But Francis, obvious, is just like, his jaw drops to the floor, literally. And watching them canoodle and Simon say that, you know, I've never been a one-woman man before, but I'm changed. I'm totally into monogamy now. I'm crazy about this thumb lady. And this picture of them kissing is so gross. And it's kind of sweet. It should be sweet. And Francis, of course, is horrified. He's sick to his stomach. And the fact that he's dating this kind of horrifying thumb lady, Francis can't take it. When he thought he was dating Caroline, he was like, well, Caroline's beautiful. I get it. And then as Simon and the thumb lady go off to their like nice little apartment, their love nest, Francis says something really embarrassing. And then he sees these two bugs fucking. He's back at home. And he smashes them. He doesn't want to see any love if he can't have it. And he tries to lie to himself. Oh, good for them. They make a good couple, I guess. They're happy together. This is a weird comic. So bizarre. So now we have this artist I've never heard of named Susan Hay Karuhangi King. And from what I've gleaned from these articles and interviews, she's like some hot shit modern artist from the 70s. But, of course, as you can see, you can understand why she might be in an anthology like this. She loved to have like these panels, these long vertical panels. There's no sequentiality really, but it does almost look like comics. Like a comic laid out by Frank Miller even. But except for the contents of the panels are very different. But really interesting stuff. I mean, almost every panel is just a different drawing, totally different characters. But she uses a lot of cartoon characters in her work. We see either Huey, Dewey, or Louie here. And the thing I like about this is behind all of these panels, there's this shifting, amorphous shapes and colors just kind of moving around behind the panels. Like a lava lamp or something. So just more of this, some of its design work, abstract. This almost looks like it's colored in crayon or something. See more abstract stuff here. And then look at this, just totally, it almost feels like maybe this is a sequence. This guy turns around, sees all these little characters. So different than the other pages. Also, this doesn't have any of that background business going on. And now we get back to the abstract, colorful, interesting abstract art. Here's Bugs Bunny. Some other bunny. And now the background is actual drawings of just all these random characters. Well, there's Donald Duck, I guess. But within the panels, just a totally different style again. It's almost like the work of 5 different artists we're looking at here. This one's really interesting, even though I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. Looks like a bunch of bodies piled together, but it just becomes a beautiful abstract design. He was definitely also having panelology, but very odd. Here's Bugs Bunny again. This is just beautiful to me. I can't explain why. I notice that when anything has panels, even if they're not using the panels, it just looks better to me. That's just because I love comics so much. This is just like total open, and then just more and more and more detailed into now you're in like this total like graphomania going on down here. This one says machinery construction. Don't know why, because it's just more kind of pretty, abstract, colorful images. Oh man, this is some neat stuff. And then look at this, totally changes. This could maybe be a weird Mobius panel. Once again, we're back to just the big color blobs just floating around behind the panels. Bugs Bunny keeps popping up everywhere. God, like, I just love that some kind of face there. Oh, it's a duck. Maybe it's Uncle Scrooge. I don't know, Donald Duck. But it's like it just melds into this weird background landscape. Some of it's so simple. Like that is so a bunch of crayons making some designs. I'm almost tempted to just put in captions and word balloons and make a comic up out of these. But I guess that would go against the spirit. So now we have another insert. This is by Poncili Creación. That's what it looks like. It's a Spanish word for creation. And this is just like a little mini portfolio. Just some more crazy art. Like what drove you to draw this? I don't find this that visually striking, this guy. I mean, it's definitely kind of cool to look at, but just not. I think once again, because it's like this, just like colored pencils and crayon, it just doesn't leap out. It kind of just is muted, you know? So that's that. So now we have another, like, basically portfolio by Dylan Jones. And this totally reminds me of that Bridget Trout. This is just like, there's no way this guy's sane. This is just insanity. Look at this, a giant pregnant cat with two vampire mouths on its belly. For some reason, its face is a blue circle obscuring it. What are we looking at here? But it's fun as hell to look at. This really does give the sense of drug-induced experiences. This is just craziness. What the hell? Just half of a cat man that just starts. Oh man, this is so crazy. But I kind of like looking at him. Look at this guy with his rainbow diarrhea coming out of him. But then there's this other squelch of diarrhea that just seems to be hanging from his ankle. Some kind of jewelry. I don't know why I'm trying to explain this shit. There's no way. So now you can probably tell this looks like the other one. This is another story by Joey Haley, Lost in Another Land. This one is pretty much just as obtuse, even though it looks like it's going to be a nice little picture story. Almost like some weird prose poem. So here we have another painting by that mystery painter. So I don't know. This might be a clue. Look at that circle there, even though it doesn't look like it's photographed. It's like, maybe it's that guy, that Trenton Doyle Hancock, but it doesn't look like that other stuff he does. I kind of like it, though. Whoever this is, if any of you guys know, please comment, put a comment in below. I cannot figure it out. The contents skips it. And lastly, we have a comic by Angela Fanche. Did I get that right? I think it's an F, Fanche. And this is very weird, this comic. At first I was just like, this art looks kind of not that great. But then the more I read it, the more I liked it. This is just a person has just a singular cartooning vision. Where it just seems like at first it's going to be like, this is going to be like some kind of autobiographical comic about this girl traveling on a bus. She goes to talk to the bus driver, but then all of a sudden she has to crawl along the floor to get to the bus driver. And it doesn't explain why. Oh, I mean, it does say she didn't want to be seen so transparently, but that doesn't make really any sense. Look how crude she draws this bus driver. That totally looks like some bad underground cartoonist. And then she looks out into the windows and she sees something. She's unclear even what she saw. A powerful image, some enlarged creature imposed onto me. And this affects her very deeply. So now she's climbing into a window to catch up with her friend Max. But then Max disappears. He's too fast. She loses sight of him. So obviously we're in this is like a dream territory we're in. She laid down to eat. Look at this weird thing. She's lying on the sofa and then there's 3 nested, I assume, versions of her, or 3 souls or something. I don't even know. I'm trying to explain this. Who knows? And then finally we see Max here. He's walking through this hallway of empty rooms and closed doors. He finally finds his friend, the protagonist. And she's trying to describe this thing she saw to him. She's like, I really need to talk to somebody about this. But he's kind of not listening. And he's not paying attention. Just kind of being a typical dude. So now they finally find a room that's furnished, and they realize this must be someone's room. But Max just says, let's hang out here. Let's relax. They're not here. Who cares? And she's kind of bummed that he doesn't really seem to care about her vision she had. About talking to her about it. So simple the way she draws these faces, but there's something really evocative about them. Her style is very, literally at first I was just whatever, this isn't that great. And then I just fell in love with it by the time the story was done. It almost reminds me, it's so different in style, but it has that same feeling to me of Renee French's stuff where I don't know what the hell's going on, but I just want to keep following these characters. And I love looking at this art, which normally, logically, I'm usually I don't like art that looks like this, but I do in this case. So then the person who lives in this room comes. Apparently they're a famous person, but she doesn't know who they are. And she draws him looking like this. This weird, I don't know what that is. And then she says, I've been holding onto this orb And it's almost like this erupts from the orb. This beautiful kind of, I don't know what it is, some basically just psychedelia. And it floats away. We have another nice 2-page spread from Rege Jr. And we have a little credit page on the back. I don't know who drew that. I would assume Mark Bell. But who knows? And that's it for Alive Outside. Sorry that took so long, guys, but there was a lot of stuff to look at in there. So, hope you guys like looking at this. It's kind of a crazy book. I good luck finding it. Maybe there was a second printing, but according to that article, they made 900 of these. And I think they were sold out last year. So I just happened to stumble upon it at Floating World. I think they probably got this because it's missing that mini comic by Dongery. So, yeah, I don't know where you're going to find this. Hopefully you can. Some of you might not want to. This is very... a lot of this stuff is just very bizarre and weird, and it's very subjective. I get that. I definitely didn't like some of the art in this book, and some of the art in this book that at first glance I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I ended up loving. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.